Welcome everybody to Belmont Poetry Night. To mark our time together, I'm going to light this candle just as a way to create a little bit of reverence for our space here together, to say with gratitude that we have come together in spite of all of the restrictions, that we've come together in a sense of community and to enjoy poetry. And I'll introduce myself. My name's Jackie Rigoni. I'm the Poet Laureate for Belmont, California. And I'm delighted to have people here who have been with me from day one at the Belmont Library, which is also on unceded Ohlone land. Belmont Poetry Night is hosted on the third Tuesday of the month. And while we haven't been able to make it at the Belmont Library, we've been meeting on Zoom. And as a result, we've had people from Brooklyn, we've had people from Canada, and tonight we have folks already all the way here from India. So we now have a global community of poetry here in our little hometown of Belmont. So thank you all for being here. It has been my great honor to host Belmont Poetry Night for the past 3 years as Belmont Poet Laureate. And I'm actually rounding into the end of my term here in the summer. And so to show my deep appreciation for all of you who have consistently joined me, through at the library and in this space, just to show my appreciation for your presence. So I am pleased to feature one of our poets who has consistently shown up with her beautiful poems and in support, as we all have experienced her, in support of our own work. And so we will have our featured reader, Monica Korde, up first, and then we'll follow by open mic. We have a full roster and time for one poem each. And for those of you who emailed me to read, I'll put the reading order in the chat shortly. And if you emailed me and you're not on the list, make sure that you remind me. I've inadvertently dropped a few folks off in the past, with apologies. And we did have one person cancel, so if you are in the mood or are you moved to read, I invite you to just let me know in the chat and I'll try to add you to our list. So if you're here to listen, we're happy to have you. So please just sit back and enjoy. And since everyone but the person speaking will be on mute, I mentioned being able to share your comments in the chat, and you can. One of my favorite ways of responding to the reader is by typing a line that particularly strikes you as and hits you in the heart, or you can share your appreciation there however you'd like. I also like to use American Sign Language sign for applause. And to show your appreciation for the reader. So to start with, I again welcome you all here, and I'd love to hear in the chat where you're from and how long you've been coming to Belmont Poetry Night. Maybe this is your first time, maybe you've been here on a regular basis. So just go ahead and put your name and where you're signing in from and how long you've been coming here, even if it's 5 minutes. Great. Thank you. Tonight, our featured reader is Monica Korde. She's kicking off this special series featuring the dedicated poets who have made Belmont Poetry Night a thriving community. And along with being a beloved mainstay at local open mics. And if you've been to any of our open mics at Cafe Zoe or any other Belmont Poetry Night, and she read also recently, then you know that Monica is both an amazing host and reader and audience member, which is amazing to have in a poet. Not all poets have all of those three skills. Her poems have been published online and in anthologies, and she's originally from India and now lives in Belmont in San Mateo County, where she says her time is dominated by community work and freelance writing and her poetry. And when she's not writing, Monica spends her time hiking and painting and taking equestrian lessons, and my favorite, motorcycling the back roads with her husband. So really great reason to follow Monica on Facebook, because she has awesome photography and commentary on her trips, and that all of which finds her way back into her poetry. So thank you and all for being here, and welcome, Monica Korde.
Thanks, Jackie. I hope all of you can hear me well. Awesome. Thank you so much. You are absolutely kind to say all of that, Jackie. It means so much to me. I think it has been about it was in 2017, I think I attended the Belmont Poetry Night when Tanu was hosting it. So I have been with it ever since, and such a joy to be in this space. So Happy New Year, everyone. I hope all of you have been warm and well. Thanks, Jackie, for having me tonight. Belmont Poetry Night, as I was saying, was the very first open mic I began reading at. And I'm absolutely thrilled and honored to be featured as part of this beautiful reading series you have envisioned to showcase the Belmont poets. And all of you here, thanks so much for coming. I would like to share something before I begin my reading, and it is about the act of sharing poetry, which to me always felt like an intimate experience. So, as a young adult, when I began writing, I was sharing my poems only with my family and a few close friends. I have never really experienced reading them aloud in a gathering in front of strangers, so to say, up until a few years back when I moved here from India. I discovered a new comfort and joy in letting more people see me through my poems. And this happened when I met Jackie and a small community of poets through her. So even before she became a poet laureate, Jackie was always doing something for the poetry community. She welcomed poets to her house and curated this beautiful circle of trust for every person there. And we had a wonderful space to share our work and our voices. And that was one of the first and most enriching interactions I have had with poetry as a shared entity. As the Belmont Poet Laureate, you have only inspired me more, Jackie. So I'll always be grateful to you for that. I also want to thank the other brilliant poet laureates I have known. The former poet laureate of Belmont, Tanu Wakefield, who is here tonight with us. The past and present poet laureates of San Mateo County, Lisa Rosenberg and Eileen Casineto, and poetess Kalamu Shashe of East Palo Alto. These poets are constantly working towards creating opportunities for poets, and they never cease to amaze me. So thank you all. And let me actually start with a few poems which were driven by projects and events initiated by some of these poet laureates. The poem I would like to begin with has appeared in the Speak Poetry anthology, curated by Eileen Casineto, which has a collection of poems by several poets of the San Mateo County. Invitation. Have you ever walked in the long silver rain? Have you watched it run into creeks and cracks? Listen, here it comes. Big, wild rain, in spells and storms and stories, and I feel the coming of the rain inside me first. How marvelously have I adapted to all storms, that now I can truly listen, watch it fall on the other side of my life. Into each little thing I pay attention to. Small, neon rain on smooth asphalt, micro droplets cradled in cobwebs, on the greenest blade of grass, falling off the beak of the sparrows at rest. Pinpricks of water against my face, mapping every inch of space across bodies of land and water and flesh and ink. Come, join me in this conversation with the long silver rain. Follow the song of the river newly born. Let it remind you of how loved you are. Be here, ready when you are, to feel the rain outside, the quiet within. Thank you. The next piece is an ekphrastic poem that came from a visual art poetry challenge steered by Lisa Rosenberg for her spoken art initiative. The artwork that inspired it was a copper sculpture created by a local artist, Sean Coyle, and it was titled Pegasus. My poem is called Pegasus Reborn. From one pulsating point to another, he drew stories in the sky for me to see. Never before had I known how simple this was. To take a walk under a moonless night, to look up and let my eyes wander into darkness. How easy it was to follow his arm extended towards the northern sky. His fingers intertwined with mine, almost breathing life into each star we pointed at. And we sculpted in air this magnum opus, a constellation horse for the heavens to call as theirs. Al-Janib Markab Shiat Al-Farats. Al-Janib Markab Shiat Al-Farats. I have memorized all names, all patterns, all myth, so that even if all things were to crumble away one day, I may forge another Pegasus, welded together piece by piece, spark by spark, a requiem for the one that we built above the horizon, and then maybe call it our own. Thank you so much. So the natural world has a deep connection with the writing that I do. And I think a lot of my poetry comes from listening besides observing, because I find myself doing that quite often. Listening to the sun, to the sky, the changing earth, the birds, and even to people as we too share the same spaces. And from listening, I think I'm able to revisit and see things differently, understand them better, and discover the hidden meanings behind the ordinary that constantly surround us. This poem is called California Autumn. soft turning light, slow fading fireflies, and low ebbing hours. Beyond this, everything is more enhanced. The ivory plumes of the ever-invading pampas, the reddening poison oak that tenaciously holds on, the unfurling sinewy branches of the manzanita. Everything beyond me is clawing its way through life. How comfortable it must be to be earth-like, to be as lavish as one can be in the descending dusk, russet and golden, one leaf at a time falling, letting go slow enough to make you believe in the molting pieces of lichen-covered bark, pine cones, and winged seeds, in the fleeting brilliance of dogwood and birch, delicious autumn, well cached with white-bellied gray squirrels, in songs of the tawee, the junco, and wren. This is where the sweetness remains, in the bending of the fruit at the end of its time. Thank you. My next poem was written as a reaction to the criticism that followed the NFL players upon their act of kneeling during the national anthem in protest of police brutality against Black Americans and in honor of George Floyd's death. A simple and silent act of protest becoming a topic of debate was difficult to reason with when I read about it in the news. I'm sure all of you must have come across it as well. So here's this poem. It's called To Rise, and it begins with a quote. There are 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground. There are 1,000 ways to go home again. By Rumi. We kneel before kings and queens. We kneel before gods. We kneel before altars and tombs. We kneel to hold a child into an embrace. We kneel to show respect, to pray, to plead. We kneel in joy, in grief. We kneel to ask someone to marry. We kneel to give someone a CPR. We kneel to ask for forgiveness. We kneel to show gratitude. If kneeling is not enough, we need to lean, arc our bodies towards the light, become a Venus thistle. The ire, the cry, the raised fists we must remember. We must pick up the broken pieces before we move on. The side of the moon facing away from the earth will always be known as the dark side. That is not where we are, but it exists. This too we must remember. We may not know each other, but every song is ours. We may not sing the same songs, but every song is ours. We kneel to weed the garden. We kneel to sow new seeds. Sycamore, dogwood, oak. Timeless, persistent. They first grow down into earth, then up towards the light, bending and knowing how to rise. Thank you. Just checking in with all of you before I continue. Hope you are still with me. Great, thank you. So I heard Joy Harjo say somewhere that she enters her poems on horseback. And I was like, hey, not to compare because Harjo is way too cool and in a league of her own. But I too sometimes enter my poems by riding, not on a horse, but on a motorcycle. So, so I ride with my husband as a pillion rider, and the motorcycling we do together often gives way to my writing. Through my poems, I like to hover over myself and dive into a more personal realm, which doesn't come very easy to me otherwise. This poem is one such ride I would like to take you on. It's called Riding. My husband and I are riding the back roads again. Going nowhere special, we motor down the old stage road at our own pace. The late sun shifting behind the clouds, its light retracing the horizon. Our motorcycle carries us through a time capsule, each minute like a glacier cascading in slow motion, melting into an exquisite moment. We glide, almost levitate off the ground, uninterrupted, unstoppable, downshifting into one corner, revving up for another. Our eyes trailing the ridge of the road, the darkening outline of the coast oak, keeping us centered. Our shadow bodies projecting on the smooth asphalt, shoulder to shoulder, drifting in and out of ourselves. We sway to the rhythm of the rolling wheels under us until the salt air strikes us awake. I lift my head up like the doe at the edge of the hills. Does she feel a deep longing to turn around and start over? A sudden sweep, my gaze like a creek tumbles on its way to the sea. We ride by the Pescadero bluffs, with waves scurrying like school kids at the end of the bell. At the end of the road, we turn towards home. With so much to love and so little time, but content with the sum of these things, we keep on riding. Thank you. My next poem gives a glimpse into one of the group rides we join annually, where you can find almost about 40 to 50 riders come together to ride to the Davenport Bluffs on Highway 1. And it is done in memory of a gentleman who was a great rider, a wonderful poet, and a very loved member of the group. The poem is called Guided by a Light. I watched all of us ride today, our motorcycles humming to the wind, meandering through the forest, our helmet heads like beads on a string, one after the other, following one road, guided by a light. I saw the light shine over the bluffs today. Cheese, bread, olives, and more. Food, stories, and memories. All of us stood in honor of the man who rode, he who was loved by many, he who had now found his home somewhere between the bluffs and the clouds. Far across from where I stand, two whales break the surface of the ocean. One after the other, they ride the waves. The joy is in watching them go. Thank you. Given the past year, I was thinking a lot about the unprecedented moments we have all lived through because of the pandemic. For a long time, it seemed like we were all stuck in a sort of time warp, going in circles while standing in one that defined our limits quite literally as well. Here's a poem I wrote in the early months of the lockdown. It's called The Dance. 1. To shelter in place, they have a home. Those who do not, they reclaim the empty streets, wander with the coyotes, and foxtrot in the parking lots. When it is time to sleep, they simply look at the night above, and with its dark, fill their eyes. 2. Through the cracks on the sidewalk, the yarrow plant bursts without permission. Men, women, and children tap dance around it, the sound of their feet looping through the same spaces of their neighborhood, again and again and again. 3. From 60 feet above, those half-moon-shaped leaves of the eucalyptuses witness people covered in masks and gloves and carrying wobbly grocery bags. They slackline one step behind the other, measuring themselves, making sure they stay 6 feet apart. It is a slow waltz into the supermarkets now. Careful they don't bump into each other while dancing into aisles of nothingness. It is good that now we are made to stand behind the blue tape on the floor, because we have crossed the line too many times. And until we get the steps right, the dance continues. Thank you. So, due to the lockdown, we are also forced to live without our usual face-to-face interactions. This touchless world has made everything even more challenging than it already is. But during this time, I was also recognizing my privilege of being able to stay at home, of finding the time to write here and share more poems. The virtual world became sort of a refuge, and every little poem I heard felt like a hug I was missing. So consider this final poem as a hug I'd like to send back to each of you. I share it with deep gratitude and love. The poem is called In the Zoom Room. Nearing the end of a pandemic year, I can't say why, but this place is a comfort. I lean against the window behind me, my glance floating along the surface in gallery view. Matching names to their faces, I wait. A lone candle flickers in the far distance of someone's living room, warms the hearth, part of my soul. And each one of us has only words to give. Our understories rumbling with conversations, with odes, villanelles, a haiku, a dirge, only by offering a verse if the world can mend. What is it that holds us back? In distance lies closeness, and I speak a poem under my breath. Hot, blue, and luminous word constellations whirling away in space, waiting for an outstretched hand to connect the dots, to make me whole again. It is so comforting to find the link that connects you with the other half of your kind, where love and words are waiting to embrace you. And I feel blessed to be where I am right now. Thank you. thank you everyone for listening. Thank you so much.
Way to leave them wanting more, Monica. Totally amazing. Wow. That's so great. I would love to actually open it up for questions for anybody. If you'd like to ask Monica questions, maybe if this is the first time you're hearing her poetry, or if you've heard her reading all along, one poem at a time. What is the experience of, for you to hear it all strung together? And if you have any questions for Monica, but I would love to start by saying, by asking you, this is probably the first time you've put pieces together. And what was that experience like for you in terms of preparing for a reading?
Jackie, it was really interesting because I had never seen myself, first of all, in this space. I'm always being surrounded by such prolific poets and stalwarts, and they are so talented. I still think that I'm learning and writing and growing with every piece that I write. So putting it all together was uh, quite a challenge initially, but at the same time, a wonderful realization for myself that I can try to be a part of this space as well, and also be more open to sharing my work and not be afraid, and try to put myself out there. And yeah, I didn't have anything particular in mind with connecting my pieces. I did feel that maybe I should have a story binding each of them, but then I just thought that I'll try to keep it as natural as possible, since all of my poems they don't come under one theme only, and they come from various different experiences I have gathered. So I anyways didn't want to put them in a sort of a box. Uh, so yeah, it was a wonderful, a beautiful experience.
Great. Thank you. And I see, Ed, your mic is on. Did you want to ask a question?
Well, I heard you say, Monica, that you're part of a poetry group at the Davenport Bluffs. Was that correct?
Yes. So not a poetry group. It's a motorcycle group. Yeah. So, and one of the annual rides that happens goes to the Davenport Bluffs. So that was it.
Oh yeah. Well, it hurt I tripped up. We've gone by. This is even better, yeah, because we've been going down to Santa Cruz for 50 years, Richard and I, to see my sister and my nieces and nephews and so on. Anyway, and so I just always stop at Davenport, and you said, and so you're one of the motorcyclists.
Yes, I ride with my husband. I'm a pillion rider as of now, so I haven't started riding my own motorcycle. Hopefully someday that will come true. But yeah, it's been such a wonderful experience. I always feel I'm equally engaged while riding two up, if not more. And it's a delightful and a very unique experience at that.
Great, thanks for that. And I loved hearing how you worked your motorcycle riding into your poems, and even how you're saying that it feels that's a reflection of more of a personal experience as opposed to being an observer. So I thought that was interesting. Phil, did you have a question? And then we'll go on.
I did. I actually had more of a comment. I just wanted to say that the poems and the grouping, I don't know, they say to me that you have a depth that's far beyond your tender years. And I can say that because however old you are, I've got a few more on you. So, but yeah, I mean, very much so. I've always loved it, and it's nice to be able to say it.
Thank you, Phil. And I see.
Thank you so much, Philip.
Yeah, go ahead. Please do. Danu, did you want to?
I also just wanted to say it was so wonderful to hear you read so many poems at one time, Monica. Every time I've been able to hear you read one here or there, it's always a magical moment because your voice is so distinct and so very much yours. And then to hear so many at once was just a balm, like beautiful. And I do have a question for you because you'd mentioned being a listener and really listening a lot. And I was curious about your process. Like when you are writing poems, do you feel that you hear certain lines? And then the other question I have connected to that is like, do you feel like you hear silence? Because your poems have a lot of beautiful space in them as well. So I was just curious about that with your process.
Thank you so much, Tanu. First of all, I have admired you and your poetry so much ever since I got connected with Belmont Poetry Night. So grateful to you for initiating that space, and it's thriving now with Jackie taking it forward. And thank you for your question. It's you're absolutely right. It is the silence also that I listen to. I haven't, to be very honest, I haven't ever thought so much about the writing process ever before until I started getting this opportunity to be featured, and then looking at myself in a different way. Attending a poetry open mic and sharing one piece along with the others. That has just helped me grow as well. But I think this particular experience has made me think about the writing part of it, and if there is a process involved, I should be a little more conscious about it and what would it be. So the listening part of it, I think it's sort of, I don't, I mean, I can at times the lines also come to me, not always in the same way, or they don't come in a certain order. They can be just flashes of words, or the sound of the line itself, the stringing the words together and then listening to the sound that they make. And sometimes that's so beautiful as well. Besides observing, I think just taking the time to pause in your own head, whether it's for example, like the invitation, the poem that I wrote, it was I was just walking while it was raining, and I always feel that when I'm walking, I think the world slows down along with me, and I can really observe every little thing around me and take time to be more aware of it, and also appreciate what small things exist around me, which we tend to overlook very often when we are zipping past it in a car, or just going about our business in everyday life. So I think that's the pause that I feel is the listening part of it for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the folks who asked questions, but also Monica, it's been my pleasure to host you tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Jackie.
It's
And I would just like to say a quick hello to my mom and dad there, who have joined us from India. Ai Baba, thank you so much for coming.
You must feel so proud. I'm not even her mom, and I feel proud.
But you are a mom. All moms are the same.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna go into the open mic. I put in the chat the order, but I'm gonna go and read. I'm gonna read first. I have two poems to read. Normally, I invite everyone to read one poem because I feel like that, like I said to Monica, it keeps us wanting more. But there are two. I had one chosen, but the one I really wanted to read this one actually in honor of Monica and also to Thanu, who have been part of my growth as a poet as well. And when Monica mentioned sitting around my kitchen table with poetry and how much community is a part of poetry, which we usually think of as a solitary experience. And so the first poem I'd like to read is both of these poems, by the way, will be in my book of poems, Seven Skirts, which I can finally say will be out in April, just in time for National Poetry Month. And this one is called I Was Married for 13 Years Once. He gave me a hardcover edition of Dickinson once. On occasion, those grocery store roses that end without opening. Never my favorite French chocolates wrapped in gold foil. The ones I bought myself after I left and started having friends over again. My women showed up on a Tuesday with summer Syrah, washed purple grapes. They brought blush garden blooms, bending in ballet poses. Macadamias, conversation. Another came late, offering apologies and guava-tinted Susian stems. He asked to borrow scissors, lopped off each dead end, arranged those loose wildflowers in fresh water, while children interrupted us with their cat chasing and asking for more grapes. And then the next one I wanted to read is because it was written 4 years ago, exactly, when I went to the Women's March at the last inauguration. And I wanted to seize this opportunity to read this poem. It was in the, y'all know I cry. So, it was written in the middle of a really difficult transition period for me. And my mom had warned me that I shouldn't go with my daughter because it was going to be so dangerous. At the time, it was also dangerous because I was going through a custody evaluation. And I was really worried that having my daughter putting my daughter in a dangerous situation would make me look like a bad mom and jeopardize the custody. So that's a little bit of context for the danger that's mentioned here. I took my daughter to the Women's March and had a blast. I said pussy until it was funny. Pussy, 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 pussy. Oh, I'd been angry, all right. So good and furious, I spat instead of spoke until the right side of my brain buzzed on the regular with migraine. Some said, get angry. But that weekend, I was having too much fun. On the plane, knitted ears poked up all the way from 29F to 1A. We nodded pink hellos to metro strangers, not strangers. Wished each other a have fun. We smiled for selfies with our congresswoman. Fuchsia'd ear to toe. Nobody got angry. Breast to back, hip to hip, among hundreds of thousands. My daughter feigned boredom, the way a 13-year-old whatever's her way for a while through an overwhelming world, unable to escape being squished onto a page of her granddaughter's history book. If one person had shoved, or God forbid, fired, we'd have all been trampled. I was that close to responsibility for my own child's death. Whatever, she needed to find a bathroom. We excuse me through that enormous ball of yarn. Nobody got angry. Nobody groped or grabbed at our delight. Not for that weekend anyway. My daughter and I, two krill, swaying together in the multitudes, feeling safe, no matter how looming the chasm of a killer whale. Pussy, 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 pussy. Thank you. And first up, we have Phil.
I don't usually get to go first, but that's okay. I'm ready. One, thank you so much for sharing that. That was actually very special to hear. I mean, it was, I went to those kinds of things when I was a much younger person, and I haven't done that in a long time, but the feeling was there. And then second, talking about Monica's process, it's interesting because the poem I picked tonight actually speaks to my process. I often write at concerts or lectures, or there's just that creative energy. And I know that the particular piece I'm going to read was written. There's a church in San Bruno, they're no longer the venue, who hosted guitar concerts. And they had a very wonderful guitarist named Grisha, he is actually a Russian who has held the Flamenco Prize in Barcelona for several years. He is just an utterly fabulous guitarist. But this is what came out of, I don't know what he was playing, but I know that's where I was and that I was listening to him play. So this is called In Time. Watching any two people like you, uncertain and alone, as they meet on your street to then stroll and converse. In time they court the formal dance, they smile and sigh, till laughing, flushed, happy and out of breath, they sit. Talking heart to heart leads to dialogue, to harmony, to love. Opening, joining, sharing fear, unvoiced dreams and hopes. In time, two souls will meld, a greater whole in intimate step. Yet sometimes one will step away, take swirling upward flight. They hover, unsure, missing you. Fly home. Come see, come see. I'm not ready, pleads their other self. Bereft, so lost, so longingly. In time, can you please wait just a little while for me? Show me, teach me your beauteous vision, your truth, set me free. As the days fall away, slowly, swiftly, become months, then years. This discourse, their communion, grows slowly softer, sweeter, in time whispered so close, so intimately that only they will hear, until the day one flies away forever to dance among the stars. Capering, to laugh, joyfully, swirl stars together to light your way. Alone you stand in silent wonder, lonely, a tear upon your cheek. In time you utter your silent plea, your promise only love will hear. Wait, oh wait, I'll join you soon, my love. Please don't leave me here. Such quiet expressions fill the world with tender feeling, music, song. You tell me you've never heard this special melody, felt this way before? In time you'll know this passion. Gentle violence renders two souls one. This ever-present music, love, fills all time, space, forever ends, begins.
Thank you, Phil. Beautiful poem choice to kick us off.
I thought we had enough of the social political stuff I normally do. So.
I like it. Thank you for reading and knowing what was needed. Thank you. And next up, just scroll back to my list here. Oh yeah, disclaimer. Hi, you're here, right?
So the piece I'm going to read, interestingly, resonates with the theme of Phil's last poem and also of Monica's excellent poem on dance that we heard a moment ago. So perhaps that's a secret theme of the evening, dance, as it were. So this is a poem about the so-called great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn that occurred about a month ago. The great conjunction. See the old dancers long taken for deities in slow lockstep, fearlessly above the hills. Their concentration is imperturbable, but if you look very closely, it appears their bodies are trembling with such subtlety as is found in the winding weave of heaven. Study their passing art of being bound to part, that art which is time's own feigning lingering.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. Disclaimer, I really appreciate that. And for weaving it together in our conversation. And next up, we welcome Lois Freed.
Thank you, Jackie. And I just have to say, Monica, you made my evening. It was absolutely beautiful. Every single piece that you read to us. Thank you so much. Filled my evening. I have a poem that I wrote a couple of years ago, and I was just looking at my fireplace mantle, and we have this big jar of buttons, and something just sparked me to write this poem about the buttons of our lives. The button collection jar on the fireplace mantle holds buttons of all sizes, shapes, and colors. I love the look, the touch, and the feel of them. But where did the buttons come from? Who did they belong to? Was the button lost, then found? Was it exchanged for a button more beautiful and elegant? Or torn from the garment in a rage? Was it saved for its uniqueness or for the memory it possessed? There are stud buttons, flat buttons, shank buttons, and buttons that snap. Buttons made of brass and glass and metal, wood, and buttons with fabric tightly wrapped. I do not know the history of the buttons in the jar, so I make up stories from afar about Adelina, Hamilton, Elizabeth, and Marcel, and the buttons that adorn their clothes of velvet, satin, and pastel. Adelina's satin dress has buttons made of precious pearls as she squeezed into her corset for dinner. Hamilton's velvet topcoat has jet black buttons made of glass. He is trying hard to impress her. Elizabeth is looking for dress-it-up buttons with fun and laughter in mind. Marcel wears wooden buttons with fancy ridges. They're one of a kind that he designed. I may never know the true story of these buttons, but one thing I know for sure, the buttons of our lives will endure. Thank you.
The imagery in that is so strong and visceral for me. Thank you. And familiar. It feels so familiar. Thank you. Next up, we have Ed.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me? Well, oh, I thought I had.
You were right the first time we heard
I was
you.
right the first time.
Welcome, Ed.
I looked for those little red things on the bottom left. We used to hear all the time, you are what you eat. And then we began to think that what you experience, you are. And so I have written this poem, and it's really about leaving nothing behind and about being the early great. I'm going to have to turn the camp light on here so I can see better. What we experience, we are. Much passes through us. We leave nothing behind. What we are. What we have been is us. What is left is nothing. We leave nothing behind. An earthworm caught in time. Much passes through us. What we have been, we were. What is left is nothing. We leave nothing behind. We, however homespun we may think of ourselves, we are the early great, flat, dry, and cloudy. The time is short, though, but some days never end. There is no joyously. There is no incantation that can bend the moment back into the patterns we have seen, we may see too late. Wait for tomorrow? No, my cousin used to say, tomorrow never comes. Wait for tomorrow? Don't wait for tomorrow, tomorrow never comes. Three's a crowd, the spunky ones, the cream in your coffee. I know, we said. That's the thing. Do it now. Early wine is flat, dry, and cloudy. And some days never end. There is no joyous lake. There is no incantation that will bend the moment back into the patterns we have seen too late. That's that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ed. Bend the moment back. Wow. Thank you. Next up, we have Mirna.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Before I read my poem, I would just like to say that I had the pleasure of knowing and following Monica's development kind of for 5, 6, or 7 years. I think I lost the exact count. And it just delights me to remember where you were then and where you are now. And all I want to tell you is that you have found your voice. And I'll leave it at that. And okay, since more than one person tonight mentioned either dance or music, I'll add to it. Ethereal. I crave to see a clear sky with barely a hint of peach blush. Vast, oh, so vast, one could just evaporate and vanish into space and not a person would notice. I stepped out on the balcony. No clouds to anchor my gaze, which made me happy. No need to be oriented, nor to recognize my place. The 2 white specks slid out of the corner of my eyes, glided through my field of vision, and grew into fine threads, then wings, then elongated necks with peach-colored beaks, finally assuming the elegant shapes of two white ibises. Each passing moment, they looked more and more sublime, until the sky became a home to shiny, soft feathers. As they floated by, they left me with a familiar thrill, akin to silence that sometimes follows great music, a slow spilling overflow of bliss.
Thank you, Mirna. Wow, beautiful. I just can't get over the serendipities that weave our works together and make all of this bigger than the whole. So thank you for the whole bigger than the individual. So thank you for adding your voice. And we had someone reached out to me to read Ana Delgadillo, and there are a couple people here that I don't recognize their names. So I'm just checking to see if Anna's here under a different name there. And I do want to welcome a few of the new folks who are here. Thanks for joining us. If you are here, Anna, just go ahead and write it in the chat. But I am going to invite Adrienne Dancer to go next. Are you ready, Adrienne? And did I say your name correctly?
Yes, thank you. I'm not feeling well, so I'm in bed in my PJs. So pardon the camera off. But thank you for the opportunity. So I'm gonna read the poem that I just recently wrote. It just came to me, the words just came to me. I mean, I find that that's the time that I really just wanted to flow. But when I come back and think about it, that's a different feeling. So the poem is called I Want to Run in a Wheat Field. I want to run in an open wheat field. Leave my heavy shoes behind. I want to talk to every wheat ear, telling them my secret of happiness. I want to give a warm name to every mountain. I want to build a nest for every bird I know. I want to write a song for everyone I love. I want to dance with every stranger I meet on the cobble street. I want to run in the open wheat field. There, every dog has someone to love. Every child has a loving home. Every tree gets to grow up. Every flower gets to blossom. I want to run in the open field. I wanted to run wild in the open field. The end.
Oh, thank you for those words of longing and hope at the same time. And hope you feel better. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again. And I think I actually want to put the invitation out. We have several people here who joined later, and I normally like people to sign up beforehand. But before I close out, is there anybody here? I think Joe left. Is there anybody else who wanted to? Joanna's here. Yay. Is there anybody else who wanted to go? Just let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I will have, I specifically put Tanu last because many of you may not know that the reason we have Belmont Poetry Night is because Tanu Wakefield was our second poet laureate. That's right. The first one was sometime in the 70s. And so Tanu began this, it must have been, what, 6 or 7 years ago now? And so I'd love for you to close the evening with your words. Tanu, thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. You shouldn't put me last, though. I should just go whatever in the list. Don't be formal. But this is so wonderful, as always. It's just always a salve to come and hear all of you read. And Monica, just, to say what Myrna said, like you found your voice. It was just such a joy to hear you read and to hear all of these poems. They're all so moving and so beautiful. And so I hate to be the closer, but anyway, I'll try. And I wrote this poem today. So I am being brave as well, because it's really not very edited and all of that stuff I like to do and fretting over poetry. So indulge me. Kind of in the spirit of Jackie's poem, Jackie's second poem, The Women's March. This is also a poem, I think, in anticipation of tomorrow. And it's also a poem about trying to find my young self. I had a milestone birthday in early January. So just trying to find that other side of me that used to roller skate. So that's what this is about. It's called The Day Before the Inauguration. The pair of roller skates my daughter gave me for my birthday are so certain. They are bright white, like a fresh sheet of paper, white laces, white wheels. They are so racist, we say, of the skates. An inside joke my brown daughter and I think we have the right to say, though, do we? The absence of color is very much its own thing. But wait, I started to tell you this other thing, how I'm trying to learn to roller skate, to pick up where I left off in my white turtleneck and yellow overalls, in my skates with rainbow laces, Xanadu as an inspiration, and roller boogie too. Because since the roller boogie started to roll, I used to hate to skate. But now I can't wait. Tensing up as I skate in circles on the empty elementary school's blacktop. My body is stiffer and more fearful, and I blame it on the text messages from friends. Stay out of the ER. With my mask on and my knees bent, stay soft in the knees, the YouTube skaters tell you. Lean forward, don't fall back. Though 40 years ago, I was not skating with the notion that I could truly break an elbow, a wrist, the base of my spine. But I'm warmer now, gliding in circles, listening to my awesome playlist like this. Bounce, rock, skate, roll. And thinking about how Black and white people weren't even allowed to do this together not long ago. And where would I have been able to weave and bubble during that time? And what if Trump were given a pair of skates on his birthday, a gift from one of his own beloved sons? Would his skates have gilded wheels and bright red laces, the color of blood once it meets the oxygen, once it spills out of the body? He stumbles at first, but once he's strapped in, he gains a little speed. He can skate in circles, just like me. And like me, he can't skate backwards yet. He can't do tricks. He's circling now inside the Capitol Rotunda with no intention of stopping. For what really would break his fall? He figures, worst case scenario, he'll just run into a wall. But now he's flying in circles around a marble center where just this year John Lewis lay in state, the hero he refused to honor. And you know, I can take the skates right off Trump's feet because I'm the writer of this poem, or I can leave the skates on and send him hurtling with accumulating speed away from the center, away from everything. Farewell to the skater, receding into the distance, a small noise, growing smaller and smaller, and my skates, my big, bright, white skates, still carry me along this blacktop, and something unclenches inside my chest as I bounce rock, skate, roll.
There's a reason why I have had you do the last poem. Is exactly what we all needed, an image of Trump rolling off and yeah, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, just the I think the activeness of the writer in this, the speaker in this, is just so powerful. Being able to determine. Thank you so much. And of course, the dance and the music, right? Which ties us all together. Great. Thank you. Okay, well, that brings us to a close this evening. I just want to remind anybody who's here that we do this on the third Tuesday of every month, and you're welcome to join to read or to just listen in, even from India on at 8 a.m. You're welcome to join us. We're happy to have you. Thank you all for your contributions, whether as a reader or as a listener. Everybody is important, and to the experience. And to continue on, I want to thank Monica for kicking off this series, which is dear to my heart, because you all make this what it is. And so I want to announce, special thanks once again to Monica for your beautiful reading and a moment of, I think Danu called it salve, for the night before inauguration. I also want to announce that our February reader is Myrna Herschel. She'll be our featured reader. And so please join us in February for that special reading. Thank you all again, and keep poetry nearby tomorrow. You may need it. And I will close this.
Just real quick before you go out, Jackie, when you lit that, all I could think of was like in certain parts of the South, they use something called a courting candle, where the intended sits on the porch and daddy lights a courting candle, and then the suitor comes up, and when the candle burns out, it's time to go. So sometimes you make the candles long and sometimes you make them really short, depending. And that was my first thought, and I thought I had to share.
I have so much reverence for this time together that I wanted to share that. So I'll blow out the candle and wish you all a beautiful evening.
Namaste.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Thanks everyone again for your beautiful, kind words.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to you, Myrna.
Looking forward, yes. All the best, Myrna.
Thank you. Okay, Monica, you did it. It's beautiful.